Choosing a place to live is a very important multi-dimensional decision to make regardless of which area you are searching in. As simple as renting sounds, the process is often complex and typically requires some level of sacrifice, either before or when you land a perfect apartment or home lease. In this section of the Renter's Resource Guide, we'll go over 3 main objectives: establishing your personal priorities, tapping into a variety of resources, and getting ahead of the competition to stand out to your potential landlord. Before we get started, it's a great idea to take this time to check your credit score. I'm assuming you saw this coming, but we're not going to wait until the application process to find out how your credit lines up. As you may know, there are dozens of free resources. Pick one and find out where you stand. Whether your credit is in good shape or not is not relevant at this point. The objective is to know. In the meantime, send out requests to 2 or 3 people to write up a reference for you. If your application requires this, it's great you have this already handy, rather than waiting when you're rushing to beat the competition when you submit the application. Think contacts unrelated to you but can speak to your character. If you have a pet, write up a pet resume about its character, behavior, demeanor, and history. Include some cute photos, examples of scenarios your pet has overcome, and even references from previous landlords if you can. I know this sounds ridiculous, I know. This is all about getting ahead of things. If you need a sample of a pet resume, I have made one available for you in the Renter's Resource links for you to get a little creative with. All right, let's set your rental priorities now. This is where you need to be firm and realistic in both your preferences and what's available in the market. To make this simple, I have prepared a little rental priority worksheet. This is for you to help narrow things down and get specific on things that are important to you. Complete this worksheet and save it somewhere you can easily access it while you're home searching. So the key with setting priorities is to make sure that the places you are viewing are as close as possible to the standard you have set for yourself. And remember, while you're searching, be sure to ask for a copy of the rental application because it's a good idea to see what is expected of you, whether you actually apply to this apartment or home or not. Once you have your references, your pet resume, and your credit report, go ahead and place these in a digital file, preferably on your phone. And you want to make this easily accessible for when you need to have access to it in the future. Once you've set your priorities and you're ready to start looking, this is where you need to keep in mind your search expectations. For example, a search for a financially strong couple looking to upgrade their space is going to look totally different than a search for a struggling college student. This also means that based on that, you will likely be using different resources for your search. The couple might work with an agent and be willing to pay additional fees, and they may be getting their search results from somewhere like the MLS or something similar, whereas an independent college student may rather ditch those fees and be inquiring on Craigslist, Facebook, or some sort of community board. Regardless, the strongest search is always going to be in your personal contacts. Prepare a house hunting memo that you can share with your friends, family, and coworkers. I have an example of this available in my Renter's Resource links that you can use and recreate for yourself. Also, a tip in avoiding high broker fees is offering a small reward, something like $50 or a gift card, to the person that helps you secure your place. This indicates to your people that not only are you serious, but also that you have a level of integrity that makes them want to recommend you to a landlord. Another great search option is to reverse prospect. So instead of looking on a public platform, you could reach out to a realtor and give them your rental priorities and ask that they send your requests around to their sphere of influence of investors and landlords. I have a sample of a letter of how this can look that you can use to provide to your agent that you trust, and all they would need to do is send it in an email blast. This is done very often for real estate buyers, so it's not a new concept, but not too often are people using this strategy for renters. And I personally think it's a missing link that could get you closer to your goals. Just keep in mind that your agent may ask you to sign a representation agreement and have a fee for using their services and resources. after the deal has closed and the lease is signed. But don't get played and put anything up front on this. The rule of thumb when dealing with real estate brokers and agents is that all fees are paid at closing. They know it, and you should too. There are endless websites dedicated to rental home searches. Get creative and think outside the box. So often I see people looking in the same places, which heightens the competition for them. Of course, this can be an unavoidable circumstance, but if you're willing to be open, you could find the perfect home on the most random website. The most important factor is that you're searching safely, you're using common sense, and you're steering clear of illegal and discriminating opportunities. On to the rental application process. Before getting worked up about the rental application requirements, just remember that it isn't just to make things difficult for you, but that it also says a lot about your landlord and your potential neighbors. You would rather have a peace of mind in a 12-month lease than a quick in and a miserable living arrangement for a year of your life that you have to pay to be in. I have provided a sample application that you can review that would include all the standard legal obstacles you could encounter in an application. Check that out in the Renters Resource links. As you should know, your credit is going to weigh heavily on your overall application. And despite all the information and references you provide, a credit check will reveal things like delinquencies, evictions, bankruptcies, criminal history, and even lawsuits and claims. However, we are prepared for this because you pulled your credit before you even started looking, remember? At this point, it's all about knowing what to expect. While credit weighs heavily, it doesn't need to make or break your application as you may think it does. I'm not going to go into the details about overcoming or fixing credit status at this point, but if you have specific concerns, I am open to sharing my resources that could help you with this. Just send me a message. Let's say your application has been approved and your potentially new landlord is requiring a holding deposit. This can happen for a few reasons. Maybe you want to secure the apartment so it can be removed from the market. Maybe you need to come up with the rest of the cash before your lease starts. Maybe your landlord wants to ensure your reliability while they check into your references. Just remember that there is a chance that holding deposit can be non-refundable. This means that if you decide to walk away from the opportunity for any reason, you need to be prepared to lose that money. There's no standard amount of holding fees. I've seen fees be thousands of dollars and hundreds of dollars. The important thing is that you have the arrangement in writing. For your convenience, I have included a sample of a holding deposit agreement that you can use as a reference if the situation arises for you. And that covers what to expect when you are finding a place to rent. To wrap this up, here are a few quick tips to consider as you move forward. Tip number 1, if there's a specific management company you want to live under and you know that they have good reputation, it's a good idea to get approved with them now and ask to be put on their waiting list. Tip number 2, consider a temporary lease. If you're not quite sure on location, circumstances, and have flexibility to try things out, look into short-term rentals. For example, co-housing spaces, rooming, Airbnb for 30 days, etc., etc. You never know what you can learn about your preferences until you try something and discover it works for you. Tip number 3. It is legal and common to be charged an application fee for background and credit checks, but be clear on your state's limits. You should never overpay for this. Finally, my last tip is to always Google your landlord and manager. Google the building, find out what it's like. And this, of course, is for obvious reasons. Okay, overall, I hope this video gives you a good insight into the process of starting to find a place to rent and even some ideas on how to accomplish getting your foot in the door a little easier. Head to disneydigital.world for access to the links and resources mentioned in this video, and I'll see you in the next one where we will go over rental and leases and the difference between them and the specifics in which they each entail.